very much the performers tonight, the scholars, and all of you for showing up to listen, to speak, to envision a different kind of public conversation. Welcome to The People Speak.
Thank you one and all for coming out tonight. We really appreciate your presence for this inaugural two-day event. Tonight is day one, tomorrow will be day two. My name is Lasana Kazimbi. I'm an associate professor in the School of Education and in Africana Studies. Also have the pleasure of serving as the associate director for the IU Indianapolis Arts and Humanities Institute. I'm very, very thrilled to be here and even more thrilled that you came out to join us this evening. Tonight is about memory. It's not only about memory, it's about genealogy. Genealogy is a people's relationship to ideas that bind them together. And so that's what we're about tonight, is the presentation and the exploration of memory, the presentation, the exploration, and the interrogation of genealogy. Not just genealogy, but also the possibilities of that genealogy. What we do is we turn toward the ancestors. The ancestors came together and taught us through their example, through their living word, how to build monuments above the earth that reflect our capacity for greatness and that remind us of our historical responsibilities. So, without any further ado, I want to introduce our MC for the evening. And before I do that, I want to remind people to please, please, please silence your phones. We have the pleasure of being guided tonight by our MC, who happens to be also our Dean of the IU Indianapolis School of Education. Please give a warm hand to Dr. Dean Tambra Jackson.
Thank you so much for being here. In the spirit of public witness, we want to first acknowledge that we occupy the ancestral lands of First Nations people. We acknowledge our location on the traditional and ancestral territory of the Miami, the Potawatomi, and Shawnee people. We honor the heritage of Native peoples, what they teach us about the stewardship of the earth, and their continuing efforts today to protect the planet. Founded in 1969, IU Indianapolis stands on the historic homelands of Native peoples, and more recently, that of a vibrant Black community, also displaced. As the present stewards of the land, we honor them as we all live, work, and study at IU Indianapolis. As Dr. Kazimbi said, my name is Tambra Jackson, and I am the Dean of the IU Indianapolis School of Education, and I have the great pleasure of emceeing tonight's event. Once again, I would like to acknowledge our event sponsors, IU Indianapolis Arts and Humanities Institute, the IU Indianapolis School of Education, the Center for Africana Studies and Culture, IU Indianapolis American Studies Department, and the Ray Bradbury Center. We are very grateful to the Indiana Historical Society for hosting The People Speak. It's wonderful to be in such a beautiful location and totally appropriate given the IHS's mission, which is to collect and preserve Indiana's unique stories, bring Hoosiers together in remembering and sharing the past, and inspire a future grounded in our state's uniting values and principles. Since 1830, the Indiana Historical Society has been Indiana's storyteller, connecting people to the past by collecting, preserving, and sharing the state's history. Please join me in thanking our sponsors and host. The People Speak is dedicated to the lives and living memory of three courageous individuals: Howard Zinn, Bernice Johnson Reagan, and Vernon Williams. The People Speak builds on the work of late historian Howard Zinn to breathe life and energy into the extraordinary contributions of those who helped to create a refined vision for society and the world. The People Speak is a two-day event that merges artistic engagement with scholarly discourse. Day one is called Voices and features a live stage presentation with a diverse cast of individuals reading historically and culturally significant correspondence written over the centuries and from around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I give to you, the people speak. Good trouble, public witness, and collective humanity.
I am a hoodlum. You are a hoodlum. We and all of us are a world of hoodlums. Maybe so. I hate and kill better men than I am. So do you. So do all of us. Maybe. Maybe so. In the ends of my fingers, the itch for another man's neck. I want to see him hanging one of dusk's cartoons against the sunset. This is the hate my father gave me. This was in my mother's milk. This is you and me and all of us in a world of hoodlums. Maybe so. Let us go on, brother hoodlums. Let us kill and kill. It has always been so. It will always be so. There is nothing more to it. Let us go on, sister hoodlums. Kill, kill, and kill. The torsos of the world's mothers are tireless, and the loins of the world's fathers are strong. So go on. Kill, kill, kill. Lay them deep in the dirt. The stiffs we fixed, the cadavers bumped off. Lay them deep and let the night winds of winter blizzards howl their burial service. The night winds and the winter, the great white sheets of northern blizzards. Who can sing better? For the lost hoodlums, the old requiem. Kill him, kill him, kill him. Today, my son, tomorrow yours. The day after, your next door neighbors. It's all in the wrists of the gods who shoot cracks. It is anybody's guess whose eyes shut next. Being a hoodlum now, you and I, being all of us a world of hoodlums. Let us take up the cry when the mob sloughs by on 1,000 shoe soles. Let us too yammer, kill him, kill him. Let us do this now. For our mothers, for our sisters and wives, let us kill, kill, kill. For the torsos of the women are tireless, and the loins of the men are strong.
Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America was never America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love, where never kings connive, nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It was never America to me. There's never been equality for me. I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek. Oh, let America be America again. The land that never has been yet, and yet must be. The land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, the Indians, the Negroes, me. Who made America? Whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Oh yes, I say it plain. America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft, of stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain. All a stretch of these great green states, and make America again.
We are a group of Chinese students born in the 1980s and 1990s and now studying abroad. 26 years ago, on June 4th, young students in life's prime with innocent love for their country, just as we are today, died under the guns of the People's Liberation Army in Beijing streets. This part of history has been so carefully edited and shielded away that many of us today know very little about it. We feel the aftershocks of this tragedy across the span of a quarter century. The more we know, the more we feel we have a grave responsibility on our shoulders. We are writing you this open letter, fellow college students inside China, to share truth with you and to expose crimes that have been perpetrated up to this day in connection with the Tiananmen massacre in 1989. Around 9:30 on the night of June 3rd, 1989, gunshots tore the 10th streets of Beijing. On that day, troops enforcing martial law opened fire on students and residents who had protested peacefully for almost 2 months. The demonstrations were initiated by college students, but from people from all walks of life participated, numbering over 300,000 at the peak. The center area of this peaceful center of protest sit-in was Tiananmen Square. It was a time when the nation had been encouraged by the relatively freer and more open political atmosphere throughout the 1980s. People had trust in the Communist Party and held expectations of a government that called itself the people's government. At a time when economic crisis threatened and corruption worsened, students and residents wanted to have a dialogue with the nation's leaders to make the country a better place. Never for a moment did the peaceful demonstrators dream that a planned massacre was awaiting them. This writer and the signers of this letter know very well that there's consequences in writing and signing this letter. But this is our responsibility. And we hope fellow students inside China know this part of history and re-examine the violence and atrocities since the Communist Party's founding in 1921. From Jiganshan, one of CCP's early bases in Jiangxi province, to Tiananmen Square, millions of innocent people have died. And we must remember them, but also reflect on wave after wave of suffering. We have no right to dictate your minds or to ask you to do something. But we do have a dream. We dream that In a future not too far from now, each one of us can live in a country free of fear where history is restored and justice realized. This is the China dream we have. We, a group of Chinese students studying abroad.
Like old beggars under sacks, knock-kneed, coughing like hags, we cursed through sludge, till on the haunting flares we turned our backs and toward our distant rest began to trudge. Men marched asleep. Many lost their boots but limped on, bloodshot. All went lame, all blind, drunk with fatigue, deaf, even to the hoots of gas shells dropping softly behind. Gas. Gas! Quick, boys! An ecstasy of fumbling, fitting these clumsy helmets just in time, but still, someone is yelling out and stumbling and floundering like a man in fire or lime. Dim through the misty panes in thick green light, as under a green sea, I saw him drowning. In all my dreams, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. If in some smothering dreams you too could pace behind the wagon we flung him in and watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face, this like a devil sick of sin. If you could hear at every jolt the blood come gargling forth from froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer, bitter as the vile cud of incurable sores on innocent tongues. My friend, you would not say with such high zest to children ardent for some desperate glory. The old lie, dulce et decorum est, pro patria mori.
Surely educators are aware of what is actually happening in the world. People are divided racially, religiously, politically, economically, and this division is fragmentation. It is bringing about great chaos and world wars, every kind of deception politically, and so on. There is the spreading of violence of humans against humans. This is the actual state of confusion in the world, in the society in which we live. And this society is created by all human beings with their culture, their linguistic divisions, their regional separations. All this is breeding not only confusion, but hatred, a great deal of antagonism and further linguistic differences. This is what is happening, and the responsibility of educators is really very great. The responsibility of educators becoming more and more serious, more and more committed, more and more concerned with the education of their students. What is education doing actually? Is it really helping mankind, our children, to become more concerned, more gentle, generous, not to go back to the old pattern, the old ugliness and naughtiness of this world? If educators are really concerned, as they must be, then they have to help students to find out their relationship to the world. Not to the world of imagination or romantic sentimentality, but to the actual world in which all things are taking place. If educators and students lose their relationship to nature, to the trees, to the rolling sea, each will certainly lose their relationship with humanity.
At a challenging moment in our history, let us remind ourselves that we, the hundreds of thousands, the millions of women, trans people, men and youth who are here at the Women's March, we represent the powerful forces of change that are determined to prevent the dying cultures of racism and heteropatriarchy from rising again. We recognize that we are collective agents of history, and that history cannot be deleted like web pages. We know that we gather this afternoon on indigenous land, and we follow the lead of the first peoples who, despite massive genocidal violence, have never relinquished the struggle for land, water, culture, their people. We especially salute the Standing Rock Sioux. The freedom struggles of Black people that have shaped the very nature of this country's history cannot be deleted with the sweep of a hand. We cannot be made to forget that Black lives do matter. This is a country anchored in slavery and colonialism, which means, for better or for worse, the history of the United States is a history of immigration and enslavement. Spreading xenophobia, hurling accusations of murder and rape, and building walls will not erase history. No human being is illegal.
In 399 BC, the Athenian government sentenced to death its most famous philosopher. This is a highly relevant historical event because it shows that threats to the freedom of speech can come from democracies as well as totalitarian regimes. The trial of Socrates was a fraud from day one because there was no concrete proof that he did anything to make Athens less safe. Socrates was offered a pardon by Athens if he would give up teaching philosophy. He refused. He believed he had a moral responsibility to tell the truth. He openly stated a belief in God and declared his confidence in a system of divine justice before and after death.
There are many reasons why I am not grieved, O men of Athens, at the vote of condemnation. I expected it, and am only surprised that the votes are so nearly equal. For I had thought that the majority against me would have been far larger. But now, had 30 votes gone over to the other side, I should have been acquitted. And so, he proposes death as the penalty. And what shall I propose? On my part, O men of Athens, clearly that which is my due. And what is my due? What return shall be made to the man who has never had the wit to be idle during his whole life, but has been careless of what the many care for? Wealth and family interests and military offices and speaking in the assembly and magistracies and plots and parties. Reflecting that I was really too honest to be a man, to be a politician and live. I did not go where I could not do good to you or myself, but where I could do the greatest good privately to every one of you. Thither I went and sought to persuade every man among you that he must look to himself and seek virtue and wisdom before he looks to his private interests, and look to the state before he looks to the interests of the state, and that this should be the order which he observes in all his actions. What should be done to such a one?
To the Republican Party, you have won, and the Democrats are now the opposition. And so it is time for someone to remind you of a few words that you yourselves spoke during the campaign concerning your fear of losing the two-party system. I remind you now that the two-party system exists and will continue to exist for the next 4 years. Every attempt that you make to identify the Republican Party as the American Party, I will resist. Every attempt you make to identify the Democratic Party as the party of communism, as the left-wing or subversive party, I will attack with all my heart and soul. I have seen too much fear in a country that has no right to be afraid. I have seen too many campaigns in California, as well as in other states, one on the issue of fear itself and not on the facts. I do not want to hear any more of this claptrap or nonsense from you. I do not want any more lies, any more prejudice, any more smears. I do not want intimations, hearsay, or rumor. I do not want unsigned letters or nameless telephone calls from either side or from anyone. I say this to you then. Do your work and do it well. We will be watching you. We, the more than 25 million Americans who voted without fear and who voted Democratic. We are not afraid of you, and you will not intimidate us. We will not be swept aside, and we will continue to be the other half of that wonderful two-party system you wailed so much about losing. Leave that system alone then. Leave our individual rights alone. Protect our Constitution. Find us a way to peace and we will be friends. But God help you if you lay a hand on any one of us again or try to twist the Constitution and the Bill of Rights to your purposes. Get to your work now. Remember that you have good men in your party if you put them to work. But in the name of all that is right and good and fair, let us send McCarthy and his friends back to Salem and the 17th century. And then let us all settle down to the job of moving ahead together, in our own time, without fear, one of the other, and with the good of everyone, each lonely individual in our country firmly held in mind.
I can't be a pessimist because I am alive. To be a pessimist means that you have agreed that human life is an academic matter. So, I am forced to be an optimist. I am forced to believe that we can survive whatever we must survive. But the Negro in this country, the future of the Negro in this country is precisely as bright or as dark as the future of the country. It is entirely up to the American people and our representatives. It is entirely up to the American people whether or not they're going to face and deal with and embrace this stranger whom they've relied on for so long. What white people have to do is try to find out in their own hearts
why it is necessary to have a nigger in the first place. I'm not a nigger. I'm a man. But if you think I'm a nigger, then it means you need him. The question you gotta ask yourself, the white population of this country has got to ask itself, North and South, because it's one country. And for a Negro, there's no difference between the North and the South. It's just a difference in the way they castrate you. But the fact of castration in the American fact. If I'm not the nigger here, and you, the white people, invented him, then you gotta find out why.
The renowned political philosopher Hannah Arendt came to the US in 1941 as a refugee from Hitler's Germany. Karl Jaspers was a leading representative of existential philosophy, which originated in Germany in the 1920s. The following letter, written by Arendt to Jasper, reveals some astonishing similarities between the McCarthy era and the present.
You probably know a lot from the papers. Can you see from them how far the disintegration has gone and with what breathtaking speed it has occurred? And up to now, hardly any resistance. Everything melts away like butter in the sun. Most important, of course, is the disintegration of the governmental machinery and the presumably quite conscious establishment of a kind of parallel government, which, though with no legal power, possesses the real power. And this takes in far more than just the civil service. The whole entertainment industry and, to a lesser extent, the schools and colleges and universities have been dragged into it. It all functions without any application of force, without terror. Basically, nothing at all happens, and yet the whole thing eats its way farther and deeper into the society. As you can see, I feel that we're looking at developments that are all too familiar. Naturally, or rather not so naturally at all, in totally different forms and under totally different circumstances. I'm constantly reminded of a quote from Huey Long, who was the petty dictator of a Middle West state in the 1930s and widely regarded as a fascist. In response to the accusation that he was a fascist, he said, "You're wrong. I'm not a fascist. I am a local boss. Fascism, if it should ever come to this country, will come in the guise of democracy, and it will start in Congress, not in the government of the states."
Well, I ask you to consider if this is a firm, and if the Board of Regents are a board of directors, and if President Kerr, in fact, is the manager, then I tell you something. The faculty are a bunch of employees, and we're the raw material. But we're a bunch of raw materials that don't mean to have any process upon us. Don't mean to be made into any product. Don't mean to end up being brought by some client of the university, be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they everyone. We're human beings. And that brings me to the second mode of civil disobedience. There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at the heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears, upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus. And you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
The favela is not a problem. The favela is the city. The favela is the solution. These were the words of City Councilor Marielle Franco in a recent debate on favela evictions and upgrading. A Black, gay woman from Complexio de Mare, Marielle advocated consistently for marginalized communities, wielding a biting critique of systemic inequality, a commitment to peaceful and collective organizing, and an ability to recognize and inspire the potential in others. She shattered ceilings and made others feel they could too. Marielle Franco was assassinated on the evening of March 14, 2018. We, the Catalytic Communities team, joined countless others in condemning her murder and that of driver Anderson Pedro Gomez. We demand those responsible for the attack be brought to justice, and we demand an end to the structural violence and corruptions that created the conditions for this tragedy. This was an attack on all those Marielle figuratively and literally represents, and on the work of all human rights defenders and activists who have the courage to criticize power, as Marielle did by denouncing police violence, gender violence, and numerous other injustices.
I start from the supposition that the world is topsy-turvy, that things are all wrong. That the wrong people are in jail and the wrong people are out of jail. That the wrong people are in power and the wrong people are out of power. That the wealth is distributed in this country and the world in such a way as not simply to require small reform, but to require a drastic reallocation of wealth. I start from the supposition that we don't have to say too much about this because all we have to do is think about the state of the world today and realize that things are all upside down. Daniel Berrigan is in jail, a Catholic priest, a poet who opposes the war, and J. Edgar Hoover is free. You see? The men who are responsible for the My Lai massacre are not on trial. They're in Washington serving various functions that have to do with the unleashing of massacres, which surprise them when they occur. At Kent State University, 4 students were killed by the National Guard, and the students were indicted. In every city in this country, when demonstrations take place, the protesters, whether they have demonstrated or not, whatever they have done, are assaulted and clubbed by police, and then they are arrested for assault. And our topic is topsy-turvy, civil disobedience. As soon as you say the topic is civil disobedience, you're saying that our problem is civil disobedience. That is not our problem. Our problem is civil obedience. Our problem is the numbers of people all over the world who've obeyed the dictates of the leaders of their government and have gone to war. And millions have been killed because of this obedience. Our problem is that people are obedient all over the world in the face of poverty and starvation and stupidity and war and cruelty. Our problem is that people are obedient while the jails are full of petty thieves, and all the while, the grand thieves are running the country. That's our problem. We recognize this for Nazi Germany. We know that the problem there was obedience, that people obeyed Hitler. People obeyed. They should have challenged, and they should have resisted. And if we were only there, we would have showed them. But America is different. That's what we've been brought up on from the time we're this high. You tick off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lovely things about America that we don't want disturbed very much. But if we've learned anything in the past 10 years, it's that these lovely things about America were never lovely. We've been expansionist and aggressive and mean to other people from the beginning. And we've been aggressive and mean to the people in this country. And we've allocated the wealth of this country in a very unjust way. We've never had justice in the courts for the poor people, for black people, for radicals. We are asked, what if everyone disobeyed the law? But a better question is, what if everyone obeyed?
We have failed to use the avenues open to us to educate the hearts and minds of men, to identify ourselves with those who are underprivileged. But repentance is more than contrition and remorse for sins, for harms done. Repentance means a new insight, a new spirit. It also means a course of action. There is an evil which most of us condone and are even guilty of: indifference to evil. We remain neutral, impartial, and not easily moved by the wrongs done to other people. Indifference to evil is more insidious than evil itself. An honest examination of the moral state of our society will disclose some are guilty, but all are responsible.
We have reached a moment in time when restless people dispossessed people, angry and impatient and anguished people look up and reach out for an elusive justice that is often promised them, long denied them, but in the eyes of God and human conscience is their due and should be their expectation. I say this is non-political and non-controversial. We are not talking now about miscegenation, or whether a man can fence his yard, or a hot dog vendor can carefully select his customer, or an innkeeper can choose to not accommodate a particular traveler. These are the ramifications of the problem. They are not the problem. They have to be some bridges built, but first we have to acknowledge the rivers. Horace Mann said, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity." Let's paraphrase that tonight. Let's be ashamed to live without that victory.
Une civilisation incapable de résoudre des problèmes qu'elle crée est une civilisation décadente. Une civilisation qui choisit de fermer les yeux sur ses problèmes les plus cruciaux est une civilisation frappée. Une civilisation qui utilise ses principes pour la tromperie et la duperie est une civilisation mourante. Le fait est que la prétendue civilisation européenne, la civilisation occidentale, telle qu'a été façonnée par 2 siècles de domination bourgeoise, est incapable de résoudre les 2 grands problèmes auxquels son existence a donné naissance. Le problème du prolétariat et le problème colonial. Que l'Europe est incapable de se justifier soit devant le tribunal de la raison, soit devant le tribunal de la conscience, et qu'elle se réfugie de plus en plus dans une hypocrisie d'autant plus odieuse qu'elle est de moins en moins susceptible de tromper. L'Europe est indéfendable. A civilization that proves incapable of solving the problem it creates is a decadent civilization. A civilization that chooses to close its eyes to its most crucial problem, it's a stricken civilization. A civilization that uses its principle for trickery and deceit is a dying civilization. The fact is that the so-called European civilization, Western civilization, as it's been shaped by 2 centuries of bourgeois rule, is incapable of solving the 2 major problems to which its existence has given rise. The problem of the proletariat and the colonial problem that Europe is unable to justify itself either before the bar of reason or before the bar of conscience, and that increasingly it takes refuge in a hypocrisy which is all the more odious because it is less and less likely to deceive. Europe is indefensible.
Émile Zola's J'accuse, 1898, was an open letter exposing the wrongful conviction of Captain Alfred Dreyfus, a Jewish officer accused of treason in 1894. Fueled by anti-Semitism, the French military suppressed exonerating evidence and acquitted the actual culprit, Charles Esterhazy. Zola's letter accused officials of a cover-up and demanded justice. His act violated the law, which punished individuals for accusations against public officials. He was convicted of libel, convicted, and fled to England. His efforts helped lead to Dreyfus's eventual exoneration in 1906.
Mr. President, a council of war under order has just dared to acquit Esterhazy, a great blow to all truth, all justice, and it is finished. France has this stain on her cheek. History will write that it was under your presidency that such a social crime could be committed. Since they dared, I too will dare. My duty is to speak, and I do not want to be an accomplice. It is a lie. And it is all the more odious and cynical that they lie with impunity without one being able to convince others of it. They assemble France. They hide behind its legitimate emotion. They close mouths by disturbing hearts, by perverting spirits. I do not know a greater civic crime. J'accuse Major Dupaté de Clam as a diabolical workman of this miscarriage of justice. J'accuse General Mercier of being an accomplice, if by weakness of spirit, in one of the greatest inequities of the century. J'accuse General Billet of having held in his hands the unquestionable evidence of Dreyfus's innocence and of suppressing it. J'accuse General Dupuytren and Commander Ravier of performing a rogue investigation, by which I mean an investigation of the most monstrous partiality. J'accuse the three handwriting experts, Sirs Belhomme, Varinard, and Couard, of submitting untrue and fraudulent reports. J'accuse the officers of war of carrying out an abominable press campaign to mislead the public and cover their fault. Finally, j'accuse the First Council of War of violating the law by condemning a defendant with unrevealed evidence, and j'accuse the Second Council of War of covering up this illegality. As for the people I accuse, I do not know them. I never saw them. I have against them neither resentment nor hatred. To me, they're only entities, spirits of social evil. And the act I hereby accomplishing is only a revolutionary means to hasten the explosion of truth and justice. I have only one passion, that of the light, in the name of humanity, which has suffered so much and is entitled to happiness. My ignited protest is nothing more than the cry of my heart. So one may dare bring me to criminal court, and may the investigation take place in broad daylight. I am waiting.
Repeat after me. Amanla. One more time, louder. Amanla. Amanla. It must not be forgotten, my lord, that by this time, violence had, in fact, become a feature of the South African political scene. There had been violence in 1957 when the women of Xeris were ordered to carry passes. There was violence in 1958 with the enforcement of Bantu authorities and cattle culling in Sekukunland. There was violence in 1959 when the people of Cato Manor protested against the pass raids. There was violence in 1960 when the government attempted to impose Bantu authorities on Pondoland. 39 Africans died in these Pondoland disturbances. In 1961, there had been riots in Warmbass. And all this time, my lord, the Transkei had been a seething mass of unrest. Each disturbance pointed clearly to the inevitable growth amongst Africans of the belief that violence was the only way out. It showed that a government which uses force to maintain its rule teaches the oppressed to use force to oppose it. Amanla! Amanla! Amanla!
I, Lily Lou Kalani of Hawaii, by the will of God, named heir apparent on the 10th day of April, 1877, and by the grace of God, Queen of the Hawaiian Islands on the 17th day of January, 1893, do hereby protest against the ratification of a certain treaty which, so I am informed, has been signed at Washington by Messrs. Hatch, Thurston, and Kinney, purporting to cede those islands to the territory and dominion of the United States. I declare such a treaty to be an act of wrong toward the native and part native people of Hawaii, an invasion of the rights and the ruling chiefs, in violation of international rights, both toward my people and toward friendly nations with whom they have made treaties. The perpetuation of the fraud whereby constitutional government was overthrown. And finally, an act of gross injustice to me.
A lot of people think this revolution is bullshit, but it's not. A lot of us think that when you get in the revolution, you can talk your way out of things, but that's not true. Ask Bobby Hutton. Ask Huey Newton. Ask Eldridge Cleaver, Mickey White, and Dennis Mora. Ask these people whether it's a game if you get yourself involved in a revolutionary struggle, then you've got to be serious. That's the reason we ask people to follow the leadership of the Vanguard Party, because we are all theorizing and we all practicing. We make mistakes, but we're always correcting them and we're always getting better. You see, the difference between the people and the vanguard is very important. You got to understand that the people follow the vanguard. You got to understand that the Black Panther Party is the vanguard. If you are about going to the people, you got to understand that the vanguard leads the people. And after the social revolution, the Vanguard Party, through our educational programs, and that program is overwhelming. The people are educated to the point that they can run things themselves. That's what you call educating the people. organizing the people, arming the people, and bringing them revolutionary political power. That means people's power. That means the people's revolution. And if you're not about being involved in a people's revolution, then you got to do something. You got to support the people's revolution.
If I must die, you must live, to tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some strings, make it white with a long tail, so that the child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his dad who left in a blaze and bid no farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself, sees the kite, my kite, you made, flying up above, and thinks for a moment an angel is there, bringing back love. If I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be a tale.
My dearest Sonichka, it's such a terribly long time since I last wrote, but you have been often in my mind. One thing after another seems to take away my wish to write. If we could only be together, strolling through the countryside and talking of whatever might come into our heads, but there is no chance of it at the present. My petition for release was rejected, to the accompaniment of a detailed description of my incorrigible wickedness. A request for a brief furlough had no better fate. I shall have to stay here, apparently, till we have conquered the whole world. Sonyusha, when a long time passes without having any news from you, I always get the impression that in your loneliness, uneasy, miserable, and even desperate, you must be as helpless as a leaf driven before the wind. The idea makes me very unhappy. But just think, spring has come again, the days are growing so long and so light. There must already be a great deal to see and to listen to in the country. Go out as much as you can. The sky is now so interesting and so variegated with clouds restlessly chasing one another. The chalky soil where none of the crops have begun to show must be lovely in the changing lights. Feast your eyes on it all so I can see it through you. Love, too, to the children, your Rosa.
I speak plainly because of a common origin, and because were it not for the monster slavery, we would have a common destiny here in the land of our birth. And because the policy of the American government, so singularly set aside, allows to all free speech and free thought, as the law of God must be to us the higher law, in spite of powers, principalities, selfish priests, or selfish people, to whom the minister, it is important that we assert boldly that nowhere does God look upon this, the chief crimes, with the least degree of allowance, nor are we justified in asserting that he will tolerate those who in any wise support or sustain it. No, friends, we suffer the oppressors of the age to lead us astray, instead of going to the source of truth for guidance. We let the adversary guide us as to what is our duty and God's word.
I'd like to introduce our cast of readers. Reading Carl Sandburg, Hoodlums, Lasana Kasembe. Langston Hughes, Charlene Fletcher. Guyi, Emilio Robles. Wilfred Owen, Siren Hand. Jiddu Krishnamurti, Valerie Clark. Angela Y. Davis, Rhonda Henry. Socrates, Marie Brown. Ray Bradbury, Jason Ackerman. James Baldwin, Judith Thomas. Hannah Arendt, Megan Musgrave. Mario Savio, Marquita Cox. Marielle Franco, what's herself? Howard Zinn, Jason Kelly. Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, Joseph Tucker Edmonds. Rod Serling, Senator Andrea Hunley. Amy Cesare, Léoncé Jean-Baptiste. Emile Zola, Maurice Brodas. Nelson Mandela, Leslie Etienne. Queen Lili Ukalani, Monte Adams. Fred Hampton, Lasana Kasembe. Raphael Alarier, Madeline Flanoy. Rosa Luxemburg, James Shurek. Marianne Shad Carey, Charlene Fletcher.
And I have been your MC and your narrator for this evening, Tambra Jackson. So this last read is a common read for everyone present. The song is going to play in the background as we read. This reading is dedicated to the living memory of Bernice Johnson Reagan, who was an American song leader, composer, professor of American history, curator at the Smithsonian, and social activist. She lived October 4th, 1942 through July 16th, 2024.
Hey.